Hello, you wonderful people. So obviously with the Elseworlds crossover, we saw a bit about Batwoman. Obviously, we got a good chunk, but still only like a little bit of a peek into that world. So for today's video, I just wanted to kind of throw out some thoughts about, like, you know, what the show could potentially be like, what we could potentially see and stuff like that. Do know at the time of me recording this, I haven't looked up anything. There might be stuff out there that's saying like specifically that the show is this and that, but I'd rather not read anything like that. I'd rather just find out when the show comes out. But like I said, just some thoughts in my head immediately based on what we've seen with the Elseworlds crossover, as well as just the Arrowverse in general, DC shows in general. Tone-wise and kind of aesthetic-wise, I feel like the show's going to be very similar to Arrow, because Arrow is very, like, Batman-like already in itself, so I feel like, obviously, that's kind of a no-brainer in how that's going to potentially translate over. I am curious, though. I doubt she'd go as far as Oliver. Obviously, the whole killing thing is kind of a big no-no amongst like the Bat family, you know, so but I think we probably could see her probably kicking ass and kind of be probably not brutal. I don't know, it depends on like how they go with the continuity and stuff like that, because obviously Batman has had his moments where he can be very brutal as well. So I'm very interested also, like, how will we learn about Kate, because will this be like an Arrow situation where we get flashbacks to her prior to being Batwoman? Because let's not forget, we're getting introduced to her already as Batwoman. That's not the case with a lot of the DC shows, because I guess borderline you can make the argument with Oliver, because he'd already got all that training and you flash back to him over the course of those 5 years on Lian-Yu, even though he wasn't on Lian-Yu the entire time, but still. But he wasn't officially like the Hood or Vigilante until he came back to Star City. You look at someone like Barry. When Barry was first introduced, he was introduced as Barry Allen before the spin-off of The Flash happened, and he gained his powers from the particle accelerator. Same thing for everyone on the Legends. Same thing for Supergirl. Black Lightning is the only exception, because he was already Black Lightning when the show had started. He had quit and then he went back to be. So it wasn't like a full-on origin story like it is with the other shows. And like I said, we got introduced to her already being Batwoman, so I'm curious how they'll handle that. What's also going to be interesting too is in the Elseworlds crossover, she mentioned that Bruce / Batman has been gone for 3 years. And the fact of the matter, she also brought up the fact that her and Bruce were cousins, which I didn't know that. I don't know if that's just like for the show's continuity, or whether or not that's like in certain continuities in the comic books they're related. Because from what I was reading, once again, I did like a little skim over who she was months ago, so I didn't really read in depth, but from what I saw, nothing really came up about her being his cousin, because from what I was reading, it was more like, no, like she was inspired by him. But I'm curious, like, how much of that time before Bruce left was she active? Like, was she active to a certain degree? Did they actually team up a lot? Or did she become Batwoman after he left because she knew about Bruce's secret and stuff like that? Obviously, for him being Batman, decided, you know what, I'm going to pick up that mantle for him, because this is the city that Bruce loved, and so I'm gonna protect it. Which is interesting, because it's like, because even she said it herself, like, Bruce left, but he went out swinging. Like, what caused him to leave? Was it like a Jason Todd situation that happened in this continuity that led to that, or was it something else? Did Commissioner Gordon die or something like that? It feels like it had to be something pretty heavy like that for him to, or maybe it just, he kind of felt defeated, like nothing he did worked. So another big thing to wonder too is, will she have a team? Because like when we got introduced to her, she's kind of handling this solo, but will she have an Alfred? Like will it actually be Alfred, or will she have an Alfred equivalent? Just a team in general? Like, will she join up with the other Bats? Like, because that's going to say a lot too about the continuity, like who she joins up with. Will it be Batgirl? Will it be a Robin? If so, a Robin, which Robin? We talking Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake? I'm curious about that too, especially because the show Titans is happening and everything, and that Dick Grayson and Jason Todd exist, and Greg Berlanti's connected to that, so I feel like that they wouldn't muddy that up. Maybe they would, I don't know. Like, that's always kind of, like I said, an interesting thing about the whole DC situation, movie and TV show wise, where you have like two different actors playing the same character but in different continuity. Or will we see her kind of join up with non-Bat, you know, companions and stuff like that? And this kind of ties in, but like I'm curious like what the villains are going to be like. Are they going to be like Batman villains? Which even then I'm like, I doubt they use like the most well-known Batman villains. They'd probably use like the ones that are somewhat well-known to those that are least well-known in certain regards, just because I feel like they probably might not have the opportunity to use like some A-list Batman villains. And also, I don't know, like, because I'd assume she shares some of the same villains considering it's Gotham and everything, but she probably has her own villains too. You can't also forget that this is the Arrowverse, so any other enemies of, like, you know, the Flash or Green Arrow can be her enemies as well. I mean, I guess maybe you could do Supergirl too, but it'd have to be like an Earth 1 version, considering, you know, obviously once again Supergirl's on a different Earth, so, but not unless you do like Earth 1 counterparts to certain villains that Kara has, to kind of add that little balance of, you know, the whole a bat and a Kryptonian relationship. Because let's also not forget, and it's something I've talked about before too, it's like the whole Ra's al Ghul, however you want to go about it, situation of him, I'm assuming in the comic books originally being a Batman villain, because that's how I first knew of him as one, from the 90s Batman cartoon to the Christopher Nolan movies to even Gotham itself. Ra's al Ghul is a Batman villain, but obviously in the Arrowverse he was introduced as a Green Arrow villain. But to be fair, because of the whole situation, Bruce is trained by Ra's al Ghul, the League of Assassins and League of Shadows, so I'm wondering, will that play any part? I mean, interestingly enough, because the state that the League of Assassins / Shadows is in right now, the fact is that it's disbanded, that probably won't happen, but I'm curious, like, will they do any hints or like nods to it in any shape or form? I'm actually curious about Kate's training in general, like where did she learn how to fight? And then also I'm curious to see what kind of show it would be, because obviously it's going to be a very actiony show, but I'm curious like how they handle a lot of stuff. You know, I feel like this might be one of those other shows that kind of balances the duality, because I feel like certain shows don't really have that as much. Obviously, like, it comes and goes with Arrow in certain regards, because I feel like some seasons focus more on the whole Oliver and Green Arrow aspect more than others, but it's always a constant thing for him, because he's always trying to figure out who he is. Like, you know, who is Oliver Queen without the Green Arrow, or who is Green Arrow without Oliver Queen? Can one exist without the other? Do they always need each other? Obviously, like Supergirl, that's a big part of her struggle, balancing Kara and Supergirl. More so just that dual identity has been played with a lot. So I'm curious, is that going to be something that translates over to Batwoman or not? Because like the Flash doesn't really do that too much. Like, because Barry doesn't have to balance his life too much. And the Legends don't really have to worry about that. Black Lightning does. So another thing I'd be interested in finding out too is, when it comes to this show, will it be a detective show? Just because, you know, like the Bats are kind of more detective-ish than a lot of other characters, especially in the Arrowverse. I feel like there's not a lot of the characters do investigating and stuff like that, but I feel like it's not as, the detective angle isn't as associated with them as it is, you know, the Bats, you know, just because Batman's known as like the greatest detective. So I'd assume that translates to the others in the Bat family as well. Maybe not, I don't know, but I think that'd be kind of interesting. Like, they're really gonna get to see that detective, like, heavy investigation side of things. It probably wouldn't be something that translates well to TV. It'd probably have to be a small part, like the investigation aspect is in other shows. I'm not saying, it's hard to really say and get across what I mean, because obviously it's there in other shows, but I feel like it is, but it should be a bigger extent in a Batwoman series. Once again, this is coming from someone who doesn't know comic books, who absolutely knows nothing about Batwoman, so that should all be considered about everything I've said in this video. So like I said, those are just kind of like thoughts that are kind of rolling around my head about what the show could be like, and ultimately that is my question. What do you guys think the show is going to be like? What do you want? What do you expect? But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time I meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good